because the gear selectors stick down, I've got it sitting up on a piece of wood, just a jacking block here. So I think, yeah, it's just out of the frame. But look, at this stage, what we'd like to do is get rid of these steering arms. Now this arm was loose, it took no effort at all. I don't know how long it's been loose. Now these have a master spline. You can see a spline that's thicker than the rest in there. One down the bottom there. So they can only really go on the one way. So I'll put them aside over the back. I'll get the one over the back here out as well. And that way we can move the box around a bit more. So left and right are completely different. You can see the left hand one was straight and the right hand one was bent forward. Now there's a felt there. That's to keep all the dirt and dust and that out. Alright, so I've loosened these top and bottom bolts here. Now a 15/16 socket fits this top one, and these are dowels to hold it all true, to hold everything in line, and it looks to be a 5/8 UNF thread. Now down the bottom here, down the bottom a 7/8 spanner fits that, so that looks like it's dropped down to 9/16 UNF. So we'll just pop this off. I don't know what sort of rubbish is going to come out of here. When I tipped it on its side to come up onto the bench here, I had water coming out the top, so I'm not expecting a lot of good news for in here. But anyway, hasn't all got to be good news, has it? There's some oil in it. Now I'm expecting a mess. Oh, we're getting some oil there. It's pretty wild looking oil, but anyway, that's oil. Nevertheless. Probably oil and water. I'm bumping the microphone now. Probably oil and water mix. So I might tip him over on his back there a little bit. And we'll get a drain tin and see if we can try and contain some of it. Just a pot I've got it sitting on. A little bit out of frame, but my hands are too dirty to get you into frame. So that's most of it. We'll put a screwdriver each side here. Oh, crikey. I think most of the mess is gone. Well, we caught some of it. Not an awful lot. So how you going there? Yep, you're still in frame. If I bring it that way, you'll be more in frame. Okay, so we'll get a screwdriver each side of this and just lever him gently. Right, so the plate comes off. Now the plate's got a bush, and it's got a bush in each hole as shaft supports and a seal here. The seal's actually pretty good. I'll put that down in the drain tin. Now, this shaft that goes out to the right, it can be taken out, it just slides out. And at this stage, we haven't cleaned it up properly, but at this stage we're just looking for any big wear around the shaft here, and that feels good. The teeth feel pretty good. Well, the teeth look real good. Look like new. Now this main shaft that goes up and down and supports the top here, well, it's held in by two little pegs, and it's on this other gear here that engages with the gear that comes out the right hand side. This one has a fork on it, and the fork comes in each side of the gear. The yokes is the word I'm probably looking for. So what we need to do is pop these lock tabs undone, and that'll pull the pins. And once we get this lock tab undone and the peg out, that lets this nut turn sideways and come out. Now, a little catch in here is when you can turn it out and turn this gear and get it out, that nut will just want to go straight down the bottom, and all the balls will just drop down the bottom end there. Yeah, bloody dirt on my toolbox. So I'll get a 7/16 spanner. Pardon me. Here we go, get this peg out. Now if the balls go spinning down to the bottom, it's no big deal, it depends if you want it to do it or not. So there's the peg. Now with that peg undone, get that out of the way, turn the nut up a bit, and that shaft will come out, and that's the tapered peg on the other side, and this one here goes in this side there, and it's shim adjustable. The shims underneath this side here and the other side, so you can get it central. So for the moment we'll pop that bolts and that plate back in so we don't lose all the shims. In you go. Same here. Someone's flying around the shed in an aeroplane. Half their luck, eh? That'd have to be a pretty good thing on a nice sunny day. Straight over the top here maybe. Okay, this fella here, and it's self-explanatory, that's the yoke that goes through. In the back there, it's the exact same bush and seal as the other plate. Now these fellas here on the steering shaft, yeah, I would have been surprised if these were actually up tight because of the cork gasket. Now this may run down and the balls fall out the end there. There's a ball bearing come from somewhere. Now, it certainly hasn't fallen out so far, so that's probably there from last time. I wonder when they fitted the new top here after the fire, is it the same shaft on the 35 and the 135? I reckon it probably is. I think all the bushes and seals and all that are the same part numbers, so it may well be just with a different bracket up the top of the steering wheel to support the dash, the different way they'd like to mount the dash. Now this has had a couple of brackets welded on up the top there, but yeah, it's no good really. I'll just take that camera a bit wider. And that way you can see what I'm doing a little bit more. Looks like a bit of cleaning up this afternoon. Yeah, we can. I think I might just put a zippy tie around the bottom here. I'll just go and grab one. Right, I couldn't find one long zippy, so I've got two short ones. And by pulling that tight there, that nut shouldn't be able to fall off. It's stuck there now. Loosen the gasket goo. And here we go, hopefully. Don't know who made that cork gasket, but anyway. And that's your shaft. So up at this top end here, there's a bearing race that supports that, takes that end float out. And the only thing that supports the bottom of the shaft is the yoke coming down here to support it as the radius changes a little bit. So, right, we'll tidy up here a little bit and we'll go and work on the top end. Well, we've got everything cleaned up and the steering, well not cleaned up, off the bench, more than cleaned up. And the steering column here is in our vise. So what we need to do is get rid of the key out of there. There's the key. It's a Woodruff key. Undo the felt. There's a felt there once more. There's also a lock tab, so we'll use a little short one today. Little short screwdriver. I haven't dropped anything yet today. Give me time. Now that washer, it's joined together and one has to be folded each way. So we'll just just get the top out first. Beautiful breeze on its way in the door today, coming in. It's yeah, I think we've got the, oh, well, I hope we've got the sound sorted out, so I can actually work in the breeze. Don't have to hide up the back. Probably at this stage we only need to be able to undo this top one and the washer will slide out of the way anyway. Alright, I'll need to get a multi-grip down the bottom end. So all I'm doing is holding this shaft down the bottom end with a pair of multi-grips, not on the worm. There's room up above it. There's only just room above it, but anyway, there's room. That's a fine thread. There's also a grease nipple here you have to pull out to get it out. That's to get the dash up over the top actually. Right, that fella will come off. Now that washer has got a tab on it. That'll come off. If I keep it in frame, that is. And this next washer should come. No, he doesn't want to. We might have to hold the worm just to undo this one. I'll be out of frame for a second, but you know what I'm doing. Right, you may be able to see that by the looks if I bring the bench over here. Usually they're almost finger tight, those fellas. A softer jaw might give it something to bite into. Okay, let's try that. Yeah, I've never had one rusted on so tight. Perhaps if I put a Stilson on the keyway here. Just on top of the thread. Oh, not on top of the thread, above where the thread is. Oh, lee. Oh, there we go. Boy, that's a tight one. They're not usually anything like that. Reason being is that's a bearing adjustment. Should be a heap of ball bearings in here. What I'll do with the other box I've got, that must have been out of a 135, I'm actually going to run through and use the best parts out of each one. We won't be using the outer from here though, that's for sure. And the inner shaft, we'll have a look, and whichever one is the best is the one we're going to be using. Very fine thread, which is what they have to give you a fine adjustment on the bearings. So you want the bearings tight so there's no up and down end movement, yet nice and free to go around. So you're probably looking for 0 end play and 0 preload. You could put a little bit of preload on, being new, not very much. Looks like we're going to have to work this fella all the way. Oh, nearly do it one hand. Big bang here on the end of the shaft. That thread needs sorting out. Right, so that's the nut, and that nut has a taper on it, and that's supposed to be where your balls go down and the ball race. So we should be able to take this out. I'll take this off now. And there's the ball bearings. You can buy a kit that has all of that in it. Now down the end of this shaft we have grease by the bucket load. So at least they were greasing it. There's a little rubber umbrella seal here. That little seal can come off over the top there. That seal feels like brand new, you know. Alright, Right, so now we're left with this shaft here. So we can hold this other end in the vise. Now this is a recirculating ball. I'll just bring that camera around a little bit. Now a recirculating ball means the balls come in, they do a lap around the natural thread here, then they have to get home somehow, so they come up over this tin shield and back down again. So now that we've got the top off, we can just roll this off the end like that and catch all the balls. And when we go to feed that back in again, see this little tin tube's full of balls. So they'll keep coming for a little bit. But we can undo the lock tabs here, undo the bolts, pull that out, and then when we go putting it back together, we feed the balls in until that cavity is full. So we'll just have a quick look at that. And look, that shaft really looks good down this bottom end. She should have lovely steer in this tractor. Okay, that's all I'm going to do now for this steering, as in stripping it. The video will be too long if we do strip then assemble as well. So yep, the steering, that'll do the steering for pulling it out, and the next video or a future video will be assembling it, setting it all up again and getting it all ready for there. Well, I've got a little story to tell you, and with the 135 steering box here, this isn't the one off the tractor, this is a spare steering box I had. Now, there was an old bloke, Cyril, an old friend, and he came and saw me one time and wanted to know, was I interested in a bit of old gear he had, and so I ended up buying a Farmall A off him, a 4-cylinder diesel 35 off him, and International 3 horsepower non-Pirelli engine off him, and he let us pull the roof off the shed, and we pulled the iron off the shed and we lifted the engine out with my high-ab crane and got it restored. Now it's at Pimpamar Historic Village, that engine. But anyway, over the years I've sort of had a bit of a yarn here and there, and we haven't been close, just know each other, have a yarn, and every now and then he'll ring me up and say, hey Lance, come and have a look at this or that or something. So anyway, one day he rang me up and he said, Lance, what are you doing? He said, I've got a heap of old stuff here. And he said, the missus is on to me to chuck it out. He says, she'd chuck it all to the tip if she had her way, but he said, some of it I can't bear to chuck it to the tip. He says, you come and grab it, eh? So off I went round there to pick it up, and he'd worked at Massey Ferguson for quite a number of years, and while he was working for Massey Ferguson, they used to chuck stuff out, and they do warranty claims and things like that, and he had a couple of grey and gold trumpet housings, and in the grey and golds there's a trumpet housing with a full circle on the outer where the brake shoe goes, and there's one with scallops out of it, and he had a couple of those there, and he was the fellow that told me the story about the 35. They took one out for demonstration, and it had the 12 bolts around it, but that was someone else's tractor. But when they delivered this man his tractor, he's had 6, so he wouldn't take it. He said, no, you showed me one with 12 with the upgrade, I want that. So they pulled the trumpet housings off with Massey Ferguson, and they put the 12-bolt trumpet housings on. And so part of those parts back then was those trumpet housings. And there was a few Fords and parts, and there's half a pallet full of stuff really, and he said, look, just take it out of here. And anyway, this steering box was there. And I've known I've had this steering box for quite a while, and when I knew the steering box on the 135 was a bit dicky and it had the wrong brackets and all, I went and had a look, and I realised that this is probably off a 35. It has the 2 bolt holes either side there to mount. And this has been in part of the parts that old Cyril gave me. And until today, I've never bothered pulling it apart. And I thought I'd pull it apart and yeah, grab some bits and pieces out of it that we needed. And the main thing was this housing here. And I've never bothered looking at it, just something I knew I had. So anyway, just now, 10 minutes ago, I decided I'll pull it apart as part of the 135 series. I wasn't going to show you pulling it apart, we've just done that. But we'd pop it apart and I'd pinch this housing out of it. Well, I don't know the story about the housing or the steering box or anything like that, but it's brand new. Now, that shaft there has never turned. It's a brand spanker. Same on this end here. Never been turned. The teeth, there's no wear marks at all. It's a brand new steering box, which is just amazing. I'm quite excited about that. Yeah, wagging me tail. And it's still got the white grease, the original white grease inside. No sign of rust or anything like that. The other gear is brand new as well. I think I must have that down in my pot. And this shaft here, with the recirculating balls, brand spanking new. Never been used. Just how amazing was that? So, where do we go from here? Well, it's alright it being brand new. The teeth in the original housing, the old housing off the 135 6-speed, they're fine. But these bushes have absolutely no wear, the shafts have no wear, the teeth have no wear. So which way do we go? Do we do this one up and put in the 6-speed, or do we save that for another one or something like that? So look, what I think I will do is these brand new gears, I'll save them. The 135 6-speed we're doing, there's nothing wrong with the gears in that, so why replace them? This top shaft here, I want this piece, and I'm going to pull this top bearing and all apart and just check it out, make sure it's okay. And if it's okay, I'll probably put this worm shaft and everything in. The other shaft had a bit of a crack on the thread there in some stage in its life, so this thread is good. Look, it turns nicely. I can adjust that nut by hand, and that's how they were. So I suppose rather than just presume it's okay, I'll strip this down completely, wash everything up, re-grease it and bring it back as new. But another difference in the housing is this housing has an oil filler where the other one didn't. I'll have to go and have a look where we filled that last one up. But yeah, look, it's lovely and free. But yeah, this bottom end here is for all intents a brand new steering box. So, but anyway, I restore tractors, so we'll tuck it away. These brand new parts here, and they are just brand new, genuine Massey Ferguson parts, which is just amazing for me. And we're going to tidy them up. See, we've still got the multi-power coming up, and it's probably got the same shafts and all that sort of thing. So we'll assemble this. We'll get this all back together. Well, I've got dogs having a play in the background, but I'm going to use the original housing and all that, and I'll clean this one all up, and I'll make sure this is all right to go. So we'll go from there, I think. But yeah, I was just interested that I've had it sitting here for all this time. I had no clue it was brand new. How Cyril come by it, I just wouldn't have a clue. It's just some of those old things. He said, "Oh, Lance, I couldn't bear to see him go to the dump, so I took him home." He said, "The bosses let me take him home. They didn't care what happened to him." So yeah, I've got a couple of nice trumpet housings, and I've got other bits and pieces off Cyril, but this gearbox, she's a real winner. Thanks, Cyril.